If you're stuck under 200,000 in revenue, you're probably super busy, but you're really wondering, like, is this business actually going to work? Let's say you're doing 50, 100, or 150,000 in annual revenue. Your job at this stage is actually not to scale the business. It's to prove that the business is actually needed in the marketplace. I believe every business moves through predictable stages of revenue, and the stages really align with revenue levels of 2s and 5s. For instance, between 0 to 200,000 in revenue, organizations are at what I would call the launch stage. The core question at the launch stage is this: are we solving a real problem? Or is it just a problem that we sort of made up in our heads that we thought was an issue, but no one is really dealing with? When you're running a company at the launch stage, it's just you, the founder, doing everything. And your job during this stage is to figure out if you have a good MVP. That's a minimum viable product. Now, a minimum viable product is like the lowest cost offer that you can get into the market as fast as possible to simply answer the question, are we solving a real problem? Customers buy your product? The answer is yes. And if they don't, the answer is no. The way to know if you're solving a real problem is really simple. It's revenue. So I'd like to talk about 4 reasons why you're likely stuck at 200,000. Again, if you're running a business that's doing 50, 100, 150,000, or even 200,000 in revenue, and you just feel like you can't move, you can't break past that $200,000 number, I want to give you 4 reasons why. The first reason is that you haven't validated real demand. Often in business, I see founders creating a solution to a problem that nobody has. And if that's the case, you don't really have a business. You really have an expensive hobby. I've heard it equated before to just playing house. So a few years ago for Christmas, we got our daughter this big playhouse. And it was like 3 stories. The top level had this outdoor pool and barbecue area. The middle level was like the main house, and the bottom floor was a ballroom. And she loved it. I'll never forget seeing how big her eyes got when she opened it up. And in the following days and weeks, she would play. And she would get her little dolls and she would move them around. They'd swim in the pool. They'd have a cookout. They'd have a big dance on the ballroom floor. But at the end of the day, what she was doing wasn't real. It was just imaginary. And this is oftentimes what business owners are doing. They feel like there's a lot of activity, and so they're getting a lot done. But ultimately, they're really just playing house. These aren't real people. These aren't real floors and levels. Ultimately, it's just a game that they're playing that isn't going to amount to anything. Now, that may sound brutal, but I hope to spare you of some of the pain of just playing house. A lot of times, leaders, they haven't validated real demand. They have some sort of business that they're really interested in, but at the end of the day, the customers don't really have a pain point that connects to what they're offering, so they end up sort of floundering for months or even years. And if that's the case for you, there may be real demand, but we need to make sure that we can validate it before we move past that $200,000 revenue threshold. Otherwise, you may need to switch businesses where there actually is real valid demand. So there's a few questions that we can ask ourselves to figure out if there's real demand for what we're selling. First, have 10 or more people paid full price for what we're selling. Not just your mom or your friend, that's an okay place to start, but are people actually buying this at full price? Another question we can ask is, are customers returning? Are they coming back to buy from you again? If so, maybe you found a valid demand. And finally, would people be disappointed if your company disappeared? Like, imagine your company goes belly up. Would anyone call you and say what happened, or would people sort of forget? Those are a couple questions to figure out if there's validated demand for what you're selling. At the end of the day, you can get as much feedback as you want from people, but the best feedback to show that there's actually validated demand for what you're selling is revenue and sales. If your revenue is growing and your sales are increasing, that's the best way to show that you have a real demand in the marketplace. Reason number 2, you might be stuck at 200,000 in revenue, is you're confusing activity with traction. So common behavior under 200,000 in revenue is tweaking everything. I'm going to tweak the website. I'm going to add a new color to the logo. I'm going to add some automation. Activity, activity, activity. But the real goal at this stage is not just more activity, it's repeatable sales and new revenue coming into the organization. A lot of times the activities that we focus on make us feel busy, but they're not actually producing traction for the company. So under 200,000 in revenue, the only KPI that really matters is closed deals. Not branding, not engagement, not more followers, more sales. So reason number 3, you might be stuck under 200,000 in revenue is because you're avoiding direct selling. At this stage of the business, you need conversations and you need rejection, right? One of the best things you can do to make the business better is actually talk to your customers. And if they tell you things that are negative about the business, say, thank you, tell me more. If you want to make the business better, talk to the people who are actually buying from you and ask them how you can do just that. It's so easy at this stage to hide behind funnels and content and the desire for perfection. But one of the best ways to get your business past that $200,000 stage is to get real feedback from people that are actually using your product. So if you're under 200,000 and you're not selling every single week, you're probably just delaying the clarity that you really need to break past that stage. Reason number 4, your business might be stuck under 200,000 in revenue is because you're trying to scale too soon. So let me be clear. If you're scaling too soon, you're effectively just wasting resources under 200,000 in revenue. Listen, at this stage, you do not need to hire anybody else. I can almost guarantee it. Please don't bring on your first hire under 200,000 in revenue. You also don't need super expensive systems. Don't go out and buy software that costs $5,000 or $10,000 a month. You probably don't need it. And also, you don't need to go out and pay for a bunch of expensive paid ads. Don't utilize a paid ad strategy under $200,000 for the most part. Remember that scale will simply amplify what already exists. So if you have problems with the business and you're hiring too soon, you're bringing in paid ads too soon, you're bringing in expensive systems, it's just going to multiply the problems for you. First, make sure to focus purely on the most important KPI, which again is revenue and sales. That's all that matters under 200,000 in revenue. Once you can push that past the point of 200,000, then you can start to talk about hiring people, bringing in expensive systems, and moving toward more formal marketing mechanisms. So let's keep it simple. Under 200,000, you have 4 jobs. Your first job is to talk to customers. Make sure that you can validate real demand, and this is a business worth growing by getting feedback from the people who are actually buying from you. Your second job is to close deals. Instead of focusing on activity that doesn't actually bring revenue into the business, put 90% or more of your energy toward actually bringing new dollars into the company. Your third job is to refine your offer. So as you're doing direct one-on-one selling and you're actually getting real feedback from your customers, you'll be able to refine your offer as you go, make it a little better at every single stage. And that's one of the things that could push you past the $200,000 number. And your fourth job, put quite simply, is to repeat. Keep repeating this until the demand is super obvious. We want to make sure that you break past that $200,000 number, not by tinkering in the background, but by getting in front of your customers and having conversations that allow you to make the offer even better and validate that there's real demand for what you're selling. If you're not slightly uncomfortable at this stage, you're probably not pushing hard enough. Growing a business is hard. Like, there are a lot of other things that you can do that are much easier, but you're probably going to have to do some things for the very first time that you've never done before, and that's totally okay. There's a recent study that talked about how growth in business leadership is not going to be purely academic. It's not going to be purely by reading books or having conversations with other people. 70% of the learning is going to be from, ready for it, hard conversations and experiences on the job. The way that you're going to get better as a leader is not by reading books, it's not by getting a mentor, and it's not by going to school. It's by doing it, by getting out there, selling, doing things you've never done before from a sales perspective so that you can actually grow the company to where it needs to be. Here's how you know you're ready for that next stage of revenue, which is right around 500,000. When customers are coming back, sales are repeating, and you finally know who your ideal customer is and you can name them. Once you get to that stage, that's when you know I'm ready to break past the $200,000 revenue plateau. If you're stuck under 200,000 in revenue, don't blame the economy, don't blame marketing. Ask a harder question, which is, have I validated demand yet? If you want to know what's really preventing you from getting to that next stage of revenue growth, take the executive flow assessment.